Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon before the three-day weekend. I'm so thankful that you can join us today for the information management policy, email management policy information session. If you have colleagues who weren't able to attend today, we have 2 more sessions scheduled for next week. And then after the end of next week, I will be uploading a video recording of this presentation and updating our email FAQs on our website based on all the questions that you have and things that we talked about during these discussions. But I just wanted to let you know that today's session is being recorded. You will have time at the end of today's session. There'll probably be like 30 minutes for you to go ahead and ask your questions. And I do encourage you to go ahead and ask your questions. You can either unmute yourself during the Q&A session or just at any time go ahead and put your questions in the chat box. Today's session is basically an overview of the email policy and the workflow. And we're going to talk about the primary goals of this email management policy. We're also going to introduce you to some of our staff and our contributors. And then I think there's a lot of great resources out there that you can look at because there's going to be a lot of information in this session that it'll be good to just reference. And then, of course, there'll be time at the very end for you to ask your questions. So first, I want to talk and give a shout out to all our project contributors to this. We had about 11 members from ETS, 5 members from HRD. We had the State Records Committee, including representatives from the Attorney General's Office and the Department of Audit, and several members from the Wyoming State Archives and the Department of State Parks and Cultural Resources. To give you some perspective on the scale of this effort, this project took over 1.5 years to bring into fruition. Some might think who have been in state government for a while is like, oh, that's really fast. But it did feel like a really long process to us. But we met bi-weekly for over 18 months. And some of us actually worked on subcommittees to refine some of the details. So some of these contributors are on this session today. And if we don't have an answer for you for some of these specific questions, we'll definitely note your questions and send them to our contacts. Your lifeline for all records management is our records management unit. We have Carmen Clayton, the supervisor of the records management unit. She's on this call today, as well as Dave Weedle and Ed Griego. Beth is out today, but she is usually available for you as well. They're always available to meet with you individually and come up with file plans specific to your agency or unit. So please reach out to them, and we have a lot of great resources on our website. So I just wanted to provide you with an introduction to begin with. The email management working group began our discussions in December of 2023 with recurrent meetings starting in 2024 of June. We wanted to specifically address the legacy content that we have been keeping for the state. Basically, we wanted to understand where we are going. We had to look at this from a legal framework that has been guiding us since 2011. Under Wyoming state law, specifically Wyoming State Statute 9-2-401, all emails are classified as official public records, regardless of which device is used, whether you sent it or received it. And because of this, ETS was very cognizant of this, and they kept every single message and inactive account indefinitely, which is great in terms of we wanted to make sure that we weren't destroying anything that was critical to our livelihood and our workflows, but it can be a humongous problem. Keeping everything forever approach can cause a lot of storage issues, and it creates significant security risk. And basically, it's really hard to find the information that you're looking for when you do that. One of the major reasons why we started to look into this a little bit more closely is because we were spending a lot of money on software licenses for the state of Wyoming. So we wanted to be more cognizant about the costs associated with covering everything. So our solution was to do a pilot project to show how effective our new workflow is. After we were able to show success with a pilot project that highlighted spacers and ETS's emails, we were able to show how much savings that we were able to create just based on those two agencies. And then we were able to apply some of the workflows to all of the state agencies with the approval of the governor. So when we began this project, our top priority was to create a simplified approach to email management that aligns with approved state of Wyoming records retention schedules and crosswalks. The state of Wyoming retention schedules are based on the function of the records and not on the format type, which can be complicated for emails. This approach follows our current workflows and will benefit you significantly. So I foresee that there's a cost reduction for you. Systematic deletion of emails that have exceeded retention requirements eliminates unnecessary storage costs and frees up email licenses for reuse, reducing the number of new licenses the state needed to purchase. There is operational efficiency. There's clear protocols that reduce time spent for our staff on managing email retention, allowing employees to focus on core responsibilities. With the standardization, it ensures that emails follow the same retention schedules as the paper records and other digital files. And the simplified compliance provides clear guidance that makes compliance easy for state agencies. There is an added bonus to this policy. As I already mentioned, email is considered a public record. By state statute, anything that you receive or create on behalf of public business is a public record, regardless of medium or format that it is created or received. Our records retention schedules closely align with this concept. The records retention is based on the purpose or function of the records rather than it being in paper, microfilm, or PDF or other type of formats. So email as a public record is subject to the public information requests that we regularly get. The current law indicates that agencies have 30 calendar days to produce records that are part of the public records request, which can be challenging if every email from an agency is being retained. This new system should help save staff time and resources in producing this information for public information requests or other inquiries, while also protecting individuals and the state from risks. The overall approach to email management is similar in approach outlined in the National Archives and Records Administration's white paper, the capstone approach to email management. I would say I'm estimating here, about 90% of the emails that we produce have a temporary value. Like most of our correspondence can be as simple as I'm going to lunch, I'm taking a break, or you're saying that you have a financial record that's only good for maybe 7 years. And we don't necessarily need to keep all that data. There is some guidelines for how long we need to keep the data based on our records retention schedules and the function of those. So our approach just simplifies our current records retention schedules, but also takes in consideration who creates the most pertinent records. of an agency. Essentially, our records retention schedules indicate like the governor's office, elected officials, attorney general office, and other top level managers' emails make the policy decisions, legal matters, and other matters of historical significance. But keep in mind, everybody in the state does create significant records. It's just a matter of what their primary job functions are and the type of records that they would generally produce. From there, we will be able to understand how long we need to keep those records. So if you look here, I have 4 tiers. We broke the emails into 4 tiers. The first tier is for Tier 1 general estate staff. The type of records that they create is administrative tasks, internal communications. And we estimated that those records can be destroyed after departure after 5 years, and they're eligible to be destroyed. I know that we say that the retention is this, but we always seek approval from the agencies before we destroy your records. So I just want to make that clear. Tier 2 is fiscal state staff. The type of records that they create are financial records and budget communications. And typically these records are kept for 7 years. So our retention is destroyed 8 years after departure. The third tier is administrative staff, and their record types usually include operational activities and project management. And these records are set to be destroyed 10 years after departure. And then the last tier is for legal, compliance, and executive staff. And their record types usually include legal matters, executive decisions, and historical records. And these records are to be retained permanently. So I just want to emphasize again that this does not impact active accounts at all. It's only after you depart from the state of Wyoming, or if you change emails by changing to a different agency. Also, the email records will not be automatically deleted at the indicated time periods. Essentially, ETS will run a query at each month for the time being to see which records are eligible for destruction. And then we provide a list to the agencies to review each email account to determine if they should be kept or not. We highly rely on the agency staff to let us know, share with us their expertise and let us know what needs to be kept longer. Okay. So there are some other key highlights I just wanted to point out here. This applies to Google email suite of accounts on the wyo.gov domain. And this includes the Drive, messaging, and email. And all records, including email, involved in ongoing litigation, investigations, and other exceptional circumstances must be kept. And this is part of why we depend so much on the representatives in each agency, because you guys are the expert on what's going on in your office. We won't know necessarily if there's some kind of legal hold going on or potential litigation coming up. Agency records officers are required to consult with the Attorney General's office regarding litigation records and the required retention period. So if you know something's going to be kept, we will keep it for you, but it's not until we get the okay from the AG's office that we will release it potentially for destruction. HRD, with cooperation of the agency, is responsible for providing classifications when requesting email addresses to ensure appropriate retention is applied. And when transferring agencies, employees receive new email addresses, triggering the retention countdown. So if you move from one position to another position within an agency, you might keep the same email address, But if you move from one agency to a different agency, you might get a new email address like sarah.davis1@wyo.gov instead of sarah.davis. And so when they run, ETS runs the reports, the old account will be flagged. And agency supervisors may request access to another email account drive, but they need to notify ETS when access is no longer needed to free up the license. So I would say if you ask for this, maybe the best way to keep these kind of materials is to create a PDF or export it into another format so you can free that license up. Or if for the Google Drive kind of materials, you can usually transfer drive access to another member. So as mentioned earlier, all emails were kept for the state of Wyoming since 2011. So we started this project by evaluating accounts that were 10 years or older, with inactive accounts that were 10 years or older. So ETS would pull those emails and HIRD would provide information such as their classification code and job title. And then HRD collaborated with the records management unit to identify the employee's primary job function and their adherence to the records that retention schedules and the records they would create. So essentially it was a lot of detailed work to map job functions and classifications to records types and making sure that we're keeping them for the minimum amount of time that we needed to. So I do want to point out here again, so this all starts with running reports through ETS, verifying with HRD and the records management unit. And then once we get like a list put together and we make sure that on our end it looks correct, then we send it to the agencies for them to do their more in-depth review and provide their expert eye to what we're to these records and these positions. And then once you guys look over the list of emails and do your review, then the paperwork goes back to the records management unit for a final review. And the records management unit works with the state archives to make sure that these aren't of permanent historical value. And then the state archivist will usually sign off on these. If it's not approved for destruction, then these emails are kept for a certain amount of time. If they are approved, then we forward on the paperwork to ETS and they begin the process of destruction. I will note that you could have one email out of a list of 10 or so emails that you want to retain, and it's really simple to indicate that you want to keep that one email. So here's an example of our basic paperwork here. On the screen, you'll see this is an AR6 form, and this is our certificate of records destruction. And up at the very top, the name of the department or division is usually indicated, and you'll usually put that in. And then down here along the bottom, in this bigger square, we will say what the records are and something. And so this one in particular says DFS inactive accounts. And it says the dates for the email accounts right here, which is November 2015. So that was about 10 years ago. And somebody was great and they told us it was 10 email accounts. This particular record needed to have archival review. And so Robin Everett, one of our archivists, did a review of the email accounts and said, yes, there's one account that needs to be kept for a certain amount of time. And usually after I look it over, I try to make it very clear for ETS, please retain this email account, do not delete, thank you. And so this looks really overwhelming, but this is essentially what each of the agencies will get. This is a general spreadsheet that says the first and last name of the person whose email it is eligible for destruction. It says what department they're in, their work location, their last login. For this particular case, this one was 12/4/2015 was the last time they logged in. Interestingly enough, there's no documents in here. This says that there's 703 megabytes of materials in the email still, and this is one of our earlier ones. So we didn't have a class code, but we did find a job title, which kind of told us a little bit about what type of records that they were creating. And then if you look here at the very bottom, there is a yellow highlighted one. And usually when there is a record that is being flagged to be kept, we will highlight it in yellow. And over on the right-hand side, it will say AR, and that means that we want to hold it for archival review because it might have materials that are of permanent historical value and need further evaluation. So currently the team is working on a backlog of email accounts dating back to 2011. And so that means that we're going back the 14 years to input the classification codes. And this is a big, heavy lift for HRD to do this work retroactively. So moving forward, we actually really need your help with this approach to make it less a time suck, essentially. When requesting emails for employees, HR and the agency should send the employee classifications to ETS. This data will be used for ETS to run will be coded to each email account. It won't be seen to everybody. It will be in a layer that's hidden to other people, but ETS should be able to run biannual reports to identify email accounts that are eligible for destruction. But we also need your help to keep this information updated. We do know that luckily here at the state of Wyoming, we have people that move through different positions and move up the classification ladder. And when you see that somebody is moving up into a different position, it's really helpful if you let HRD and ETS know so they can update the information associated with that email account. This helps us know like if those records need to be kept longer and make sure that we're following the records retention schedule set by the state of Wyoming. So that is a lot of work and a lot to request of you guys, but I do think that this streamlined evaluation is a bonus to you. It essentially reduces the administrative burden of manual cleanup for agencies and HRD. For ETS, it ensures technical systems are always aligned with the correct user data. And for the state archives, it simplifies the identification and retention of the permanent records. So investing your time upfront is a benefit to you and your agency in the future, as well as all of us at the state. So overall, this process for managing emails is the same process as managing other records, and you will complete the same forms and work with your records officer in the records management unit. But there are some steps that you can take proactively to help with email management in the right way. So some of these suggestions are to organize your email, create a folder system that matches your office's filing structure. That makes finding emails a lot easier and filing your records a lot easier as well. Move your emails from your inbox to specific folders after a brief period. Name your folders by the function or program that they document, and always fill in the subject line for your emails so it's easier to understand what that email is about. These are just a few of our recommendations. The Wyoming State Archives website has more resources, including an email FAQs that provide more details. So speaking of which, I do want to provide you with a little bit of guidance on how to navigate the Wyoming State Archives website. I know that we have a lot of information on there, and it can be a little bit difficult to find the information. So our email is our website is archives.wyo.gov. When you get here, it will look like this. And then on the very right-hand side of the page, there is a tab that is green that says for government staff. From there, there is a lot of resources that you can navigate to, and I would say have fun. There's a lot of great information on there. But I do want to draw your attention to the forms and guidelines, the records analyst, and the record retention schedules. So the records retention schedules is where you can actually access this policy. It's highlighted here in yellow. And then I also have our email FAQs on this page, and it's highlighted in yellow as well. It's on the same page as the state agency and University of Wyoming records retention schedules. So this is a really great resource for you. Our form and guidelines, you will find the AR6 forms that I showed you earlier, transferred of records forms, and a lot more information that could be of use to you. Oh, and then there is a records analyst page where you can actually have the contact information for each of your records analysts. On the page, it does show you which analyst is for which agency or local government. So that is the end of the this formal presentation. And so I'm going to stop presenting, and I will open it up to any questions.